Evening and welcome to the District 21 Board of Education meeting for July 21st, 2022. First order of business is to determine if we have a quorum for our business meeting. Jessica?
Phil?
Aye.
Debbie?
Here.
I am also here. Stacy Allen is absent. Arlen?
Aye.
Bill Harrison?
Here.
Stacy?
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. If everyone would please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Directions for public comment when we get to that part of the agenda. Our policy is any member of the public has 3 minutes to address the board from the podium up front. Under our current policy, we do not allow someone to pass their time frame off to someone else. So if you signed up to address the board, that means you're addressing us directly. From that, we'll go into board communication, board policy update. Deb?
Thank you, Phil. You will notice we met on Monday for about 45 minutes was all it really took us. And you will notice on the consent agenda under P is the first reading of the board policies. So please be sure that you review everything prior to our second reading next month. And if you have any questions, just as always, just contact me or any of the members of the committee. And that's it.
Thank you, Deb. For those of you that are not following how our committees work, especially our policy committee, it's a 2-month process. We have a first reading by the committee and then by the full board. And then the following month, the board considers and takes action on those policy recommendations. So NSSEO update?
That we do not have a July meeting, so I have no update.
Ed Red, Bill?
Okay, quick one. The final 2 sessions of the summer SEL series will be held virtually on August 3rd and 17th. You could register for a link from either the EdRed website or from the emails that you should be receiving. If you've missed any of the previous 4 sessions, they could be viewed on the members only page of the website. And now on to the IASB web update.
Please.
If it all. Okay, the Illinois Association of School Boards has created and made available for the public a new pamphlet titled About School Boards. The pamphlet is intended to give the public a brief overview of the responsibilities and workings of a local school board. The document can be found on the IASB website. That's it.
Do you have the dates again for the urban conference and then next spring for COSBA?
I'd have to go back and check. I could get those for you if you need it.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind. What was the name of that new pamphlet about school boards?
It's called About School Boards.
That's it?
It's
Okay.
under the publications tab of the website.
Yeah, okay, very good. North Cook Intermediate Service Center update, Arlen?
Nothing on that, but if I can take a minute to update on the 708 board. We did submit 2,500 signatures on petitions, well above the 1,000 that we were required. We've received quite a bit of print. This one in the Journal on Topics just ran. The Post ran an article today. The Daily Herald ran one a few weeks ago, written by Steve Zalewski. And so now starts the fun part of trying to make this happen and win the campaign. But we're waiting for verification that we're actually on the ballot. So we're moving ahead.
Very good. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Hard work by a lot of people.
We look forward to having some conversation in person as we get closer to that.
Yeah, I think September probably because of early voting.
Sounds good. Okay. Any other local government agency updates? Anything, Stacy? Anything from you? Jessica, anything?
Nothing.
Okay. From that, we'll move on to item 3, which is staff communications. Dr. Conley?
Well, good evening, everybody. We have a couple of updates, pretty brief updates on a couple of different topics. So I'll go ahead and kick it over to Michael, who will give you a summer construction update.
Thank you. Last month, as we reported, everything is progressing very nicely. We only had some issues looking at certain units at Cooper, Riley, and Tarkington regarding the air conditioning. I am very happy to report that all of the unit vents for Cooper, which was our largest priority given its individual classrooms, are not only in the district, but have started to be installed. The VAVs, which control the temperatures, arrived as well, so we will be up and running at Cooper. There's a couple fan coil units that are in individual offices that are still on their way in. Nothing that Dave can't handle. He said he could relocate those people if he had to for the time being. At Riley, we still have a July 25th ship date for the 2 rooftop units. That has not moved, so we are confident that that is going to hold and that that'll be here next week. Those 2, the curbs for the rooftop units came in and were installed today. So as soon as those rooftop units get here, we'll be able to install those and get them running. So we do have a contingency plan in place. Those 2 rooftop units control the library and the front office. So we do have those contingencies in place in case they're needed. We're hoping they will not be. And then Tarkington, same issue, rooftop unit, the curb for it came in, that was installed. It has a July 25th ship date as well. So contingency plan in place for that. It is just the library. So again, at least it's not classroom spaces, but the libraries, the bathrooms at Riley, the lighting at Tarkington and Riley, everything is going ahead according to schedule. So that is all good news. The last part is the admin building. We were told by Commonwealth Edison that our transformer is delayed. As of today, we heard that we're at the top of the list as an educational institution. And because of the fact that we don't have a transformer to use for the time being, they've made us a priority. Other school districts are awaiting transformers, but they're remodel projects, so they could use their current transformers. So we've been told we're at the top of the list. I don't know if that is, what that means exactly with ComEd. We do have a contingency plan in place there. We have some generator proposals. One that I don't even really want to think about because the cost to run it 24/7 is quite expensive. Another one to be able to get the elevators installed. But at this point, we're hoping that we'll hear something in the next couple of days. There was a meeting yesterday of ComEd, and we're supposed to hear some news shortly. So I'll continue to update. The good news is we don't have to be in the admin building. The classrooms at the schools will be cooled and ready to go, and all the construction should be done on time. So I'm happy to report that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Michael?
No?
Okay,
Work.
thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Fingers crossed.
It's never easy working with contractors since I do that as part of my profession. My hat's off to the team and Michael, especially to you in working every summer, but especially this one with the new building as well. Mike, I'm sorry.
So our next update, we wanted to give just a brief overview of where we stand to date on our recruitment and hiring for the coming school year. As has been made very well known in the media, that there are fewer and fewer people that are going into K-12 education. We are lucky to be in a metro area where generally speaking, we still have a fairly substantial candidate pool. Some of our colleagues to the south of us can't find teachers to save their lives. There's a high school, don't remember exactly where it is, who will not be offering physics at all because they cannot find a qualified physics teacher. So the situation is not that grave here, but we do have our challenges, particularly in some of our student service areas. Our speech pathologists, our psychologists that are, a lot of them are going into agency work and it's more lucrative in those fields. And so it has been a challenge. So Bob, do you just want to kind of briefly give an overview of where we are today?
Thanks, Mike. You all have the slide as far as we have about 40 openings right now. Just in the last week, Kim's team has actually hired 2 speech language pathologists and a psychologist. Ironically, the ones that Dr. Connolly mentioned. But our entire administrative team is back this week, and they are working tirelessly to fill those positions. And we are very optimistic about the prospects for the start of the school year.
Are we finding it's a compensation issue or just a lack of qualified people in the universe out there?
I think it's a combination. The marketplace is pretty hot, right? So there's a lot of, particularly for some of these more specialized positions, they can kind of, go in and write their own, their own ask. And one of the things that when you're part of a collective bargaining agreement, you're not negotiating with individuals. So, we have some latitude about where we bring in a particular member of the staff based on their years of experience and things of that nature. But, if they get a better offer down the road, they take it.
We're very competitive with our teaching assistant salary locally for the region, and we're really having a hard time the last couple of years filling those positions.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions for Bob?
Not at this time.
Continued good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Next item.
Again, very briefly, I just wanted to kind of make mention of a couple of things that we have been working on to really try and continue to expand the availability of after-school programming in our elementary schools. The board may recall that as part of the American Rescue Plan Act funds last year, we did allocate dollars to the elementary schools to expand after-school programming such as tutoring, but then also enrichment programming and so on and so forth. We want to continue to do that. One of the things that we did find last year is while we did have successful tutoring programs that ran, we also had either due to availability of staff or just they couldn't take anything else on, didn't have the ability to establish some of the other types of programming that we were hoping to do. So we are currently out there looking to identify partners who can come in, who can expand, STEM classes, enrichment things that we can do. Nothing specific. It's just something it's an effort that's, that we're undertaking at the district level to try and introduce some of those things at the elementary level as the year goes on. So just wanted to, kind of put that on your radar. But again, nothing specific to recommend or to present at the moment. So.
Any questions? By way of segueing into the final comment, final item under staff communications, all of us in our professional lives know the importance of networking, marketing and networking. I've got to say that the announcement that Dr. Conley is going to be sharing next was in large part the result of some good solid networking within the professional community. So with that, Mike?
And I'm actually going to defer to Michael,
Okay.
who was instrumental in securing both of these gifts.
Thank you. The first one, pursuant to policy 880, which is gifts to the district, anything over $5,000 that is given to the district should be accepted, acknowledged at a board meeting. We're happy tonight to have two such gifts that well outweigh the $5,000 threshold. The first one, based upon a conversation that Mike had at a meeting a few months ago back in March, led us to a family foundation that helps out districts and different entities that have the basic needs of healthcare for children and the community at heart. And so Mike turned over the name and number to me. I was lucky enough to meet with the individual from the foundation that controls that gift giving. They wish to remain anonymous, which is one of the things that they do, and we're grateful for their gift. They gave us a check on Friday for $1 million towards the community service center for the clinic specifically. We met with them a couple times, talked with them about the vision. They came out to see the clinic space, walked it, and at that time told us that they were going to give us that gift. It's a very short negotiation, which I shouldn't even say negotiation. They handed us the gift agreement. We said, thank you. And like I said, last Friday, I was lucky enough to collect that check, which did go into a safe immediately. So,
Thank you.
and the second gift is one that will be very useful to the district and will save us a lot of money. We had a organization reach out, an entity that was a fully in-person business prior to the pandemic. About 6 months before the pandemic hit, had received or purchased 64 brand-new workstations that could either be individual or grouped for their business. They have now since gone fully remote. They were only used for about 3 to 6 months. And when I say used, they don't have a mark on them. It will benefit us at Hawthorne because they can be grouped, like I said, in banks. And that was a furniture style we were looking at for our coordinator, or for our coaches and our specialists that are over there, as well as they will become, because there's 64 of them, we don't need that many. We will also have brand new furniture for assistant principals, as well as some of the psychologists, social workers, based upon that gift. Again, they wish to remain anonymous. That donation is about $100,000 in total as far as the furniture goes. And we thank them for that as well. And I would just ask that you acknowledge the gift. So
We certainly acknowledge that.
thank you.
And if I can just put a comment out there to our friends and family and onlookers in virtual land, if anyone else would like to join in this fun, we're certainly willing to acknowledge you either informally, anonymously, or in person. So please, if you're considering offering something, District 21 is certainly receptive to that fact. With that, we move into board discussion.
Yes, and so I'm somewhat sad to have to take us into this conversation. However, we know that particularly at the end of the school year, with the tragedy and the murder, mass murder that happened in Uvalde, Texas, and then just over the 4th of July, the shootings and mass murder that occurred in Highland Park, right in our own backyard. That the concept, the topics of school safety and readiness, which are never far from our daily thinking, is something that has become a heightened concern. And so we wanted to spend a little bit of time just kind of recapping for the board all of the different things that we already have done, particularly since the successful referendum in 2018, to really upgrade the safety and security of all of our school buildings. And then just talk a little bit about where we are going from here, and then just kind of engage in any dialogue or answer any questions that members may have. So I have a very brief slide deck here that I'll go through, and this just kind of recounts some of the things that we have done to secure our school buildings. And again, these are things that include but are not limited to the biggest, which of course was the redesigning of all the main entrances of all of our school buildings. Prior to that effort, you cleared one set of doors and you had access to the entire school. That has now been changed in every single building so that there is a 3-point entry. You have a much higher security area with bulletproof glass, bullet resistance glass that encompasses that area, more direct eye-to-eye contact before allowing anybody in, and really something that is a probably the biggest impact in terms of our improving our security envelope. In addition to that, at the same time, we installed internal and external security cameras in all of our schools. And so that immediately gave us pardon the pun, but a bird's eye view of what was happening inside of our hallways, who was outside, where we could, be able to make sure that we were able to keep footage and have a record of the comings and goings in the event that we needed any of that. And then other things such as, updating the staff ID card, fob, so our external doors, staff IDs activate the door locks. That minimizes the number of keys floating around can be immediately shut down, shut off if there is a need to do so. We implemented our Raptor visitor management system so that anybody who comes into our buildings has to present an ID. That ID is scanned. It automatically searches the sex offender database and generates a record of who has entered the building. I think another big piece of this is that all of our internal classroom doors in every single building, the locking mechanisms have been retrofitted so that they are automatically, their default is lock. You cannot you can't key the door to be unlocked. From the outside, if the door is closed, you need to have a key in order to get inside. So if we did have an emergency situation, a lockdown type situation, all that needs to happen is make sure that door is closed and it is locked. There is not an unlocked door internally. That was done I think in 2019, if I'm correct. Obviously, we're in the process as we do our other construction efforts of improving our exterior lighting, improving interior lighting. We had some pretty, dark spaces. If those of you who have a relationship with the Tarkington community are going to see the difference in terms of light that is in the building as a result of the lighting upgrades. We do have panic buttons in key locations across the district in offices. I'm not going to say specifically where they are, but there are several of them. Those are keyed in so that we have about a 3-minute response time from emergency services when we've tested those panic buttons. And then most recently, actually, as we speak, the district is implementing its updated and unified district radio system. Prior to this point, schools would have their little walkie-talkies, and they would never talk to any other than within their school. We now will be rolling out, and Michael actually was working. Michael and Mike were working with the building principals this week, coming back. A system that is district-wide. There are antennas that have been placed on buildings, so we have line of sight communication, and we will be able to communicate by radio from building to building. There are multiple channels. We have an emergency channel that we can go to in the event that we need to coordinate some kind of a disaster response. They are not specifically tied in with police and fire bands, but that's also because they need to be separate bands. But we are in contact with and very quickly can provide any kind of emergency service information that they need. But it is a separate system from what the police and fire bands are. So that
Panic buttons is a direct link.
yeah, the
to-
panic buttons are direct links into our emergency circuits.
I
Yeah.
didn't want anybody-
Yeah. As are our fire panels. I mean, all of that. I mean, so if somebody, if nothing else, if somebody needs to pull a fire alarm, they send everything, So, and like I said, the response times are about 3 minutes. So separate from the actual security aspect, we also have undergone a lot in terms of just planning and preparedness. Those are activities that continue on an ongoing basis. Again, some of these activities include, but they're not limited to, we have a standing district safety committee that meets multiple times a year. Building administrators, teachers are part of that committee. Kim, as part of her job title, is Assistant Superintendent for Support Services and School Safety. She facilitates those meetings and those conversations on an annual basis. Officially, on an annual basis, we sit down and we review and revise all of our emergency plans with local law enforcement and emergency services. That happens in June, generally speaking. But even beyond that, we are in continual conversation with particularly our local police departments. Kim is, we'll talk to Commander Troy at Wheeling, on a weekly basis, and the same in some of the other departments. So we are in continual contact with local law enforcement and making sure that we're all in the know of all of the different things that may be coming down. We have updated, a couple of years ago went to our ALICE training system for our lockdown active shooter situations. We do practice. We do not go overboard. There has been, I think rightly so, a bit of caution in terms of not going overboard with the drills, because of just the mental health and kind of stress that puts on both parents, staff, and kids. But we do practice, and kids do know, particularly reunification and what to do if. So that is something that we make sure that we do frequently throughout the course of a school year. Again, as I said before, our response times are, like I said, generally 3 to 5 minutes whenever, so when we need them, they are here, and they are here fast. And that is every single one of our municipalities. So something that we are very lucky about. We do not have the situation that some of our colleagues, particularly downstate, where it could be 45 minutes before, emergency services shows up. They're right on top of us, and they're here very quickly. So what are some of the future considerations, particularly as it relates to, things that have gone in motion since these last 2, in particular, incidents? First of all, there was recently signed federal legislation that has a significant amount of funding for expanded mental health services and violence prevention, particularly for schools. And as the board knows, we leave no stone unturned when it comes to mental health, physical health resources for our families. Kim and her department work secured a $635,000 community partnership grant for mental health services. We are implementing activities and programs as a result of that grant. We will absolutely be pursuing whatever kind of funding that may be coming from this legislation to continue and expand that work. Coming directly out of the Highland Park incident, the Illinois State Police has indicated that they are going to be doing some kind of expansion and clarification of the clear and present danger notification process. And this is actually a notification process that has been around for a few years. It came into the law, I want to say, about 6 years ago. But it hasn't ever really been all that well defined in terms of what triggers it, what our responsibility is, in terms of providing that information to the Illinois State Police, what happens once that is done. It's been pretty murky at best. And so, and I think that as a result of some of the things that came out in the investigation post Highland Park, that there were perhaps some flags that were missed. And so we are awaiting any information that may come from that process, so that we can ensure that we are doing everything we're supposed to be doing in terms of that clear and present danger notification. And anytime, particularly a school shooting occurs, there's always a review of practices. And there could very well be some additional guidance, some new recommendations that could come out of that in terms of how we should be preparing for something that we hope never happens. But as we have seen all too many times, does happen. And so we are absolutely keeping our ears open. Our partners at North Cook, the regional office, are on top of it. They are generally speaking our first source of information. We are linked in with state agencies counterterrorism task force, things of that nature. So we do get information from them when something is happening. We don't talk about that, generally speaking, but we do have sources of information that flow into us. So I want everybody to be rest assured that the issue of safety and security is a daily concern and is a daily line of thought and action for us in the district. So with that, I will open it up to any questions that you may have, or dialogue, or anything of that nature.
It's always a balancing act when we're talking about this topic in particular, of what we can communicate to the general public, to our parent community especially, and about what we're doing. Can you address whether or not there's anything in the beginning of the year handbook that perhaps touches on anything from the first page, items that we've already done that may be included in that?
When you say handbook, the handbook is generally speaking, information on, processes, procedures, and kind of, it does make note of the kind of drills and a practice that will occur. In terms of the actual kind of recounting some of the things that I've just done here, one of the things that we really took from some conversations that we had post U All Day is that we do need to be more intentional about communicating with our parents and community about what we do with safety and security without divulging too much information. So Cass and I have talked about making sure that periodically throughout the year within our parent newsletters that there is a safety and security update, just kind of a reminder. That was part of the June family newsletter, is that right? It was either May or June. Yeah, but so we've done one. We will do it periodically throughout the year. So those are the types of things that we're going to be doing as well.
Okay, I'll open it up. Everybody, go.
A number of things.
Use your mic.
For you, yes, Arlen, I reached out immediately to say for you.
Not for me, for the audience at
Okay.
home.
Okay.
Should there be any?
On July 4th, I was fortunate enough to be invited to march in 2 parades. Unfortunately, I had to choose because they were at the same time, and I chose to march in the Arlington Heights Parade. But I was also invited to march at Highland Park. And so this all struck fairly close. And one of the things I remember from our training way back from IASB 20 years ago and every year since is our first job is not education. Our first job is sending kids home safely, in the same condition they were when they were sent to us in the morning. This is just such a hard thing on a variety of levels. I do have one question before I go into more comments. So you had mentioned the safety reviews that go on and how administrators and teachers are involved. Are our custodians involved in that also? Because they know our buildings as well, if not better than anyone.
I mean, we do have representatives from the operations department, so that come in. So, but these meetings are happening, generally speaking, during an active school day. So custodians are in buildings. They're but remember, we also do a number of safety walkthroughs. The ROE comes in, does safety inspections. The fire marshals come in and do inspections, and our custodians are always part of those things as well.
I know that we've talked about this before a number of years ago. I think before you first came on, Mike, we had a security audit, if you will, from an outside agency, and we might want to consider doing that on some sort of periodic basis. And that's just a mention of discussion. I will also say, though, it's on us, not just as a board, but individually as board members, as community members, and for that matter, as community members out there, whether here with us or virtually, to be talking to our legislators. There are so many things that can be done that we might not be able to do as a board, but can be done at a greater level. I could tell you one thing, for example, through EdRed, we're working on hopefully giving school districts the ability to avail themselves to the red flag laws so that if we hear of a threat, an administrator might be able to put in a red flag request to the appropriate police authority to get that type of thing moving. And that's something that we could do, not necessarily as a board, but as individuals, to talk to our legislators about things like that. So I hope that as we continue moving forward with this, we think about what we can do as a board, whether it's an audit, we've had SROs in the past, whatever, but also what we need to do as individuals and to continue those discussions.
Thanks, Bill. Anybody else over here? Jessica?
I just wanted to ask, I think we've talked about this in the past, and I just can't remember where we landed on it, but is there a possibility of a parent advisory committee about school safety where you could get direct feedback from families in the buildings? You know, I'm speaking not only as the board member, but as the only board member who still has children in the buildings, and one going into middle school this fall, which will be a new adventure for all of us. But I know that they report things to me that they see during the school day, you know, just on any average day, on the days where they do, you know, their safety drills of all different sorts. And I know that other kids are communicating to their parents, you know, what they see, and not just the physical safety of the building, but, you know, issues that they have with other students, how, you know, interpersonal conflicts are being resolved. And I'm wondering if maybe that's an option that we should consider, having, you know, a periodic parent portal to directly advise you, you know, what our children are telling us is going on in the buildings, and getting it from their perspective.
Yeah, I think that that's certainly something that we can do. We can incorporate that, particularly with some of our other parent advisory activities that we, you know, undertake as it relates to school discipline, you know, and different things like that. I think one of the things that we want to make sure is that, you know, we're taking information in, we're kind of listening, but we're also doing so in such a way where, you know, people feel good about, you know, I mean, people can get panicked. You know, you start talking about these things, and you know, we don't want to create a perception that there is a safety issue, but that doesn't mean that we can't have those types of focus groups periodically, you know, to kind of just say, you know, do you have concerns? What are you hearing? You know, what are your questions? So we'll absolutely take a look at how we can incorporate that into some of the other things that we already do with parent advisory.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
No, I'm good.
Arlen, anything?
Thanks, Phil. So taking a long view, you and I were here when security wasn't even talked about at all, literally. And
Flintstone days.
when I joined the board, which was a couple of years after you joining the board, and in the wake of the Lori Dan situation, we started to talk about that. Outgoing board members then thought that some of us were crazy talking about securing buildings. It just is beyond my comprehension where we are today, and the things that we need to do to keep our buildings and our students and our staff safe. And it won't go away until we can depoliticize the issue of guns on the streets of America, because what's happening here is uniquely an American problem. Does not happen anywhere else in the Western world. So on my list, and we've talked a bit, and Bill, you and I share a couple of the same thoughts. One of the things that I was thinking we might want to do again is a real audit, a new audit. Oh, I'm sorry. What? I can't turn it off. Is to look at doing another audit district-wide of security. The other, I thought that you touched on it, and I would like us to review it again, would be SROs at the middle school level. And we've had that discussion as well. Also on my list was something that was in our last district-wide plan, increasing security with the ballards in front of our buildings, where there are driveways where somebody could literally drive a car into a building. All the major chains have done that for their front entrances. It was in our original plan. And I think we've done as good a job as any district. I think the last couple of years we've done wonderful things, but it's never going to stop. It's never going to end. And we just have to keep our pedal to the metal and keep trying to do the new things that those who wish to do harm to individuals really kind of prevents them as much as we can, because they'll keep getting more difficult and they'll keep trying new things, and we just have to try to stay ahead of the curve. But I want to thank staff, our teachers, superintendent. You know, it's a heck of a thing to have to go to work every day and think about safety as a primary, as Bill said, primary cause of what we do, but we must, and we do. And so I thank everybody for all your hard work.
Stacy, any
I don't have
questions?
anything new to add, no.
All right, Mike, anything else on that?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We now move into public comment. The board will now receive public comment for up to 3 minutes per person. Such comments should not include discussion of personnel matters, which should be brought directly to the attention of the appropriate school official. If there's anyone that has wishes to address the board, if you could fill out the form and drop it with Ms. Del Rio, we will call on you. This is the appropriate time if there is some interest there.
Phil, I received an email too. It's Cass over here.
I'm sorry?
Over here. An email came through. Do you want me to go first or
Who am I?
Cass is
Cass,
talking
Cass.
to you.
Oh,
here?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. An email came through on the emails district account for public comment. Would you like me to read it now or after?
Go ahead. You can read
Okay.
it now.
It's a little lengthy, so please bear with me. It's from Megan B, and it came in today at 7:18 p.m. And it says, I hope everyone is having a happy and healthy summer. I just wanted to publicly make a comment regarding running for school board. Many may or may not know what a school board is. It has been brought to my attention that a few parents didn't know what a school board was, so I wanted to provide some information and offer encouragement to the incredible parents, current parents within this district. School board members are the leaders who have the public school children's best interest. They make all decisions not only for the current school-aged children, but for those to come. They meet and should exceed the mission of the school district, establish direction, and exceed goals within the district from all approaches. They should be fully supporting the teachers, the staff, the students, and the community. With that said, and in support of my opinion, I think we could use some new change, like the 8 new principals and assistant principals taking their spots in just a few weeks this school year. These educators could use some extra support, and I am confident there are individuals in this great and large community who can exceed this hope of mine. Who is with me? Okay, so now you know, but what makes a good school board member, in addition to meeting the already mentioned? For me, I think it should be open-minded, unbiased, and engaged in tough conversations that better serve the majority. They don't have their own political benefit or push their ideas in forums. They offer understanding and compassion. They are the ones willing to stay informed with the current needs of today's children and not make you feel otherwise. They have the eagerness to serve not only the children in the school district in which they serve, but the community and public school community as a whole. They recognize not only the staff within the district, but the resilient children and their parents in which they serve on a continuous basis. They are dedicated and okay to say when they are wrong. They care and show up for all, no matter how tough it might be. Almost done. So do you know somebody who fits this job description? You can help this community in more ways than you know. You might not be the most popular, or you might be the queen bee on the PTO. Maybe you have a master's degree or a PhD. Maybe you are a stay-at-home parent who wants to
Yes.
be.
We were way past the 3-minute
Oh,
mark. I'm
okay.
sorry. Thank you.
Mhm.
We do have four members of the public. As the first person, Michelle, is coming up to the podium, let me remind all 4 speakers that you can come. That this is a listening session for the board members. We typically do not go back and forth with the speaker. I just want to make sure that all of you are aware of that. Please, Michelle, go ahead. 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say thank you all for all of your hard work that you do day in and day out. It doesn't go unnoticed. Besides that, I do have a couple of things that I am a little bit concerned about. I have a student in the district. I don't know if these topics are currently affecting our district or they might be in the future, but I did want to let everybody know that I am opposed to critical race theory, sexual education discussion, any types of discussion relating to changing genders or wanting to change genders. I think that is not a school topic. Pronouns of how people think that they should be called. I think these are all unrelated to the main topic of education. Our taxpayer dollars can be better spent. Children need to learn English, grammar, literature, math, science, etc., in order to become intelligent and productive adults in society. Please help us to get on the right path so that we can save our community and the future for America. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate your comments. Next is Tanya.
Good evening, board members. My name is Tanya, and I have 2 daughters attending Tarkington. I recently learned about Senate Bill 818, also known as Comprehensive Personal Health and Safety and Sexual Health Education. I did my research, and I'm bothered by the curriculum that will be taught to our children starting at kindergarten. These standards are too extreme for our children. What worries me the most is that I have not heard any public discussion on this topic. I know that sex education in Illinois is optional for districts to provide. My request to the board is to inform the community and allow parents to take part in this decision before putting it to a vote by the district. Thank you for the time.
Thank you,
for your
Tanya.
time.
The next public member is Vanita, please.
Dr. Connolly, board members and administrators, I would like to follow up on my email to the superintendent and all board members from about 2 weeks ago. It is regarding Public Act 1020522, or also referred as Comprehensive Sex Education Standards. It is my understanding that the district has not received any guidance from the Illinois School Board of Education. In the same email, I attached a link to the National Sex Education Standards, and I asked if any of you have read them, and nobody answered that question. But we all did, and so other parents who are watching, and it's a bit alarming. No wonder other districts have been decided to opt out, like Barrington 220 and Crystal Lake 47 even has it on their website. I know you will not answer my questions now, but it will stay for the public record that I am asking if any of you is familiar with the dark side of so-called gender ideology. Are you familiar with the work of Dr. John Money and Dr. Alfred Kinsey? If you do, I'm sure you know that they are called the fathers of sex education. Dr. Kinsey's theory on sex lives of prepubescent children were actually based on the diaries of a pedophile who has molested hundreds of children. Dr. Money took the sexualization of kids even further, conducting the Rainier twin study, and the tragic findings in that case are now being pushed as normative in our culture. I hope you will research the gender ideology movement before you decide that it's okay to teach K to 2 grade to define gender and gender role stereotypes and to explain how is gender different than sex assigned at birth, or 3 to 5th graders to learn about romantic and sexual feelings, masturbation, mood swings, how to differentiate between cisgender, transgender, gender non-binary, gender expansive, etc., and are all puberty blockers playing the lives of kids who identify as transgender. The list goes on with even more detailed information in higher grades. Please make informed decision on the proposed standards and maybe choose to teach health curriculum that is age and developmentally appropriate, medically accurate, and that aligns with the family values in our community. I will tie this everything that I just said to the fact that the district is choosing to selectively communicate with the parents. Lately, we have been informed on some very important topics, like change to the National Suicide Crisis Hotline, back to school medical and dental services, coping with community violence. However, there has not been a mentioning of the sex ed standards. Parents are not aware of what the board plan is. Is it going to be discussed in a regular meeting, and when? And just like that, this is the latest important topic that we have not been informed. Just like we were never informed that we can opt out of shield testing or of non-academic student surveys that you make our kids take without parental consent, like a panorama surveys, for example, you know that you are required to inform us that we have the right to opt out. I hope you will correct the mistakes and you will inform the parents at the beginning of the new school year. And while you're at it, please don't forget to let parents know that according to the Illinois School Board of Education, we have the right to opt out of the sex education in case the district chooses to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last public member is Dorina, please.
Well, obviously, you guys understand it's all about the same topic as my friends have previously stated. So my concern is everything that they've said. It's just like, I feel it's very confusing, especially for small kids. My little daughter asked me, she's like, Mommy, like, I love my best friend. Like, you know, I love spending time with her. She's awesome and I love her. What does that mean? Am I a lesbian? And I was like, no, of course not. Like, you just love your friend. And you know, that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're a lesbian. And I'm like, where'd you hear this? Oh, I heard my older sister talking about it. So that's where all the parents are concerned, is that kids are going to take it the wrong way and like think something that, let's say that I'm a lesbian, even though she's not, because she doesn't fully understand it. And she's 4 years old. So that's why we're concerned about this whole situation. So I really hope that you guys will take into consideration everything that we said, and then we'll be informed with the options to opt out of the sex education talks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all four of our members of the public that addressed us this evening. We have not had a direct conversation about this. In fact, when it's typically when a law is passed that affects schools, the Illinois State Board of Education puts forth rules and guidelines that they share with the public school districts in the state. They have not done so as yet. So this is not something that has come to the table for us to really review in any significant detail at all. Dr. Conley, I don't know if you want to further address that?
Well, the only thing I'll say is that I can assure the board and those who are in the audience or watching at home that when the district moves towards consideration of these new standards, that it will be done in a very transparent way. There will be discussion at the board level. There will also be discussion with parents, with our teachers, with our health experts that teach health to our students, our medical staff, our nursing staff, so on and so forth, because we too, and the law requires that the education that we provide, particularly as it relates to health and sexuality, is medically accurate. And we're going to be doing that, and age appropriate, by the way. That's in the law. So, you know, this is something that the district has a great deal of say in how we meet the requirements of the law, but we have simply not begun those discussions. And we want to have the information from the state, the material that the state is putting together to review before we get into these substantive discussions, because it's an important issue and we need to make sure that we have all of the information before we move forward. But I commit in public that this is going to be a transparent and collaborative process when we begin it.
Thank you, Dr. Conley. Again, thank you, ladies, for addressing us on all those topical areas. We appreciate that. Next item on their agenda is the consent agenda. Does anybody need anything pulled?
I do.
Okay. You need
The-
minutes?
Yes, which I don't know what B. Oh, thank you, B.
Okay.
I did not
Anybody else?
attend that meeting.
The chair would accept a motion for the consent agenda minus the minutes from the meeting.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda minus item B.
Second. Thank you. Any questions? Jessica?
Bill?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
I vote yes. Debbie?
Yes.
Phil?
Aye. Oh.
Arlen?
Aye.
How many times? do I get to
Stacy?
vote?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Chair will accept the motion for the approval of the minutes from last month's meeting.
So moved. No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And second,
Just to clarify, these are the minutes for the special board meeting of July 5th.
thank you.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Debbie?
I'll take this.
Oh, Debbie, okay. Thank you. I vote yes. Debbie?
Yes.
Phil?
Aye.
Arlen?
Aye.
Stacy?
Abstain.
Bill?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Is there anybody else have any items for conversation before we move into closed session? Seeing none, the next meeting of the Board of Education is the third Thursday in August, which is the 18th, which is a week before my birthday. So I will be here.
Okay.
Not taking it off. August 18th is the next meeting at 7 o'clock, right here in the boardroom. We will now, where is the,
I'll move we recess the open meeting and move into closed session.
Second.
yeah, but isn't there something I have to
You have to go
actually
read the whole thing, yes.
Huh?
Yeah, you have to do your reading.
I can read it for you.
Go ahead. Trying to find it.
Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves to recess the CCSD21 July 21st, 2022 regular board meeting and convene in closed session to discuss the minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act for the purpose of semi-annual review of the minutes.
Thank you.
Debbie?
Yes.
Phil?
Aye.
Arlen?
Aye.
Stacy?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
I vote yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. Public meeting is now adjourned and over.